This is the story of Ioma, a woman everyone in her village respected for her wisdom, her kindness, and her sharp tongue. She could settle quarrels, mix healing herbs, and tell stories that made children forget their hunger. People came to her for advice. And she always believed she knew what was right. Until the day her little baby tried to warn her. That morning began like any other. The cock crowed just before dawn. Smoke rose from the cooking huts. The smell of roasted maize drifted through the air. Ioma strapped her baby to her back and hummed softly while grinding pepper. The child's name was Chica, a lively little girl who had just begun to speak a few words. As Ioma worked, she felt the baby shift uneasily. Chica pressed her tiny hand against her mother's shoulder and whispered. "Mama, don't go to the river today." Ioma paused for a second, surprised. She turned her head and laughed softly. "What are you saying, my child? You just learned to talk. You don't even know what a river is." She kissed the baby's cheek and kept working. A few moments later, the baby repeated it, louder this time. "Mama, don't go to the river today." Ioma stopped again. This time, she looked at her daughter closely. The child's eyes were wide open, staring past her mother as if watching something far away. But Ioma shook her head. "Ah, this one. She hears the neighbors talk too much," she said with a smile. She didn't think much of it. Children sometimes say strange things. And Ioma had work to do. Before long, her friend Unease arrived, carrying a basket. "Ioma. The market herbs are almost finished," she said. "Let's go to the riverbank. The morning dew makes the leaves fresh." Ioma nodded. But when she lifted her baby to tie her on her back again, the little girl started to cry. Loud, sharp, and restless, not like a hungry baby or a sleepy one, but as if something was wrong. "Chica, stop it now," Ioma said, bouncing her gently. The crying only grew louder. Neighbors turned to look. One old woman nearby muttered, "A crying baby at dawn can mean trouble." Ioma laughed it off again. "Ah, Mom and Ketchy, don't scare me. She's just stubborn." Still, as they walked toward the path leading to the river, the baby's cries came and went like the sound of wind. Sometimes she went quiet and mumbled something too faint to understand. Other times she started again, wailing, "No, Mama. Don't go." Ioma felt a small chill, but pride made her voice firm. "She's just afraid of water," she told Unease. They both laughed and continued walking. The sun was still low when they reached the edge of the forest. The river was not far now, only a short walk down the hill. Birds called from the trees, and the air was cool. But as they drew closer, even Unease noticed how the baby had gone completely silent. Her little hand gripped her mother's wrapper tightly. Ioma looked down. The baby's eyes were still open, but she wasn't blinking. It was as if she was listening to something that no one else could hear. For the first time, Ioma's heart hesitated. She slowed her steps. Then she heard it, faint but clear, the sound of a woman singing from the river below. The voice was sweet, almost comforting. The song spoke of healing herbs and long life. Unease smiled, "Ah, maybe another woman has come early to gather herbs." But Ioma didn't recognize the voice. It had a strange echo, as if the singer was everywhere and nowhere at once. Chica began to whimper again, whispering, "Mama, not that woman." Ioma shushed her. "It's just a song, my dear." But her steps became slower. When they reached the riverbank, they saw no one. Only the rippling water, shining with a faint mist. Unease bent down and started to cut some leaves. "Come, let's hurry. The market will be full by midday." Ioma tied her baby under a nearby tree and joined her. The baby reached out as if trying to grab her mother's wrapper. "Mama." "No," she cried again. Ioma frowned. "Ah, Chica, stop embarrassing me. You don't even understand what you're saying. She went on picking herbs. But soon the air around her felt strangely still. Even the sound of the water seemed to fade. She looked up and saw something moving under the surface, like a shadow gliding slowly. She blinked, and it was gone. She told herself she was imagining things. Still, she felt uneasy. Then she heard a quiet laugh, a woman's laugh, gentle but cold. Ioma turned sharply. Who's there? Silence. Unease didn't look up. Did you say something? Did you hear a laugh just now? Unease shook her head. Maybe the birds. Ioma forced a smile. But when she looked toward where she had left the baby, she saw Chica pointing toward the river, eyes wide. The baby's lips trembled. Mama, she's calling you. That was when Ioma's chest tightened. She stood frozen, her heart beating fast. She didn't see anyone, yet the words made her skin prickle. She walked back to the child and lifted her quickly. All right, we are leaving, she said. Unease looked puzzled. So soon? I forgot something at home. They started back toward the path. But halfway up the hill, a woman's voice called softly behind her, Ioma. It sounded so familiar that she turned. For a second, she thought she saw someone standing near the water, an old woman in a wrapper made of leaves, smiling gently. Then the mist thickened, and she was gone. The baby buried her face in her mother's neck, whispering over and over, "Don't go back there, Mama. Don't go back." That night, Ioma's hut felt different. The air was warm, but she kept shivering. The baby would not sleep. Each time Ioma laid her down, Chica woke up crying and calling for her. So Ioma carried her in her arms, rocking gently, humming old songs from her childhood. After a while, both of them drifted into light sleep. Then came the whisper. Soft, close to her ear. Ioma. Her eyes opened quickly. No one was there. The fire in the corner had almost gone out. She sat still for a moment, listening. Only the sound of the wind outside. She shook her head, added a few sticks to the fire, and told herself it was nothing. By morning, she was exhausted but determined to continue her work. The herbs from the river looked fresh, so she began preparing them for a healing mixture she planned to sell in the market. As she stirred the pot, the baby, sitting nearby, said softly, "Mama, don't cook that." Ioma turned, tired and irritated. Enough, Chica. You don't know what this is. Let me work. The baby's small face grew sad, and she turned away. Soon the pot began to bubble. A sweet smell filled the hut, mixed with something sour underneath. When Ioma leaned closer, her eyes watered slightly. She added more leaves and kept stirring. A few minutes later, a loud knock sounded at the door. It was Unease, breathing fast. Ioma, come outside. Something strange just happened in the village. Ioma stepped out, still holding her spoon. Down the road, people were gathering. A goat had collapsed suddenly near the stream. No wound, no struggle, it just lay still. The villagers were whispering, confused. Ioma frowned. Maybe it ate something bad, she said quietly. Unease nodded, but she looked uneasy. It fell just after thunder struck the hill near the river. At that, Ioma's heart skipped. She glanced back at her hut, where the pot was still boiling. The baby had begun to cry again. That evening, Ioma tried to shake the feeling away. She poured out some of the mixture, but before she could set it aside, the firewood cracked loudly, scattering embers. She jumped back, startled. A puff of dark smoke rose and curled toward the roof. For a moment, she thought she saw a faint shape in the smoke, the outline of a woman's face smiling faintly, then it vanished. Her hands trembled. She took the pot outside and threw its contents onto the ground. The smell faded, but her mind would not rest. That night she dreamed of water again. She stood beside the same river, the mist rising. The old woman appeared, carrying a gourd. Her eyes were kind, but her voice was firm. "You were warned," she said. "You laughed, and now your home will carry what the river did not want." Before Ioma could answer, the woman tipped the gourd toward her. A stream of dark water spilled out, covering Ioma's feet. She woke up gasping. For 3 days, nothing else happened. Then, on the 4th morning, the well beside her compound turned muddy. When neighbors fetched water, they noticed it smelled faintly of herbs, the same kind Ioma had boiled. They came to her door asking questions. She told them she didn't know why. But inside, she began to wonder if her baby's warnings were connected. That afternoon, Chica sat quietly near the doorway, watching the ground. Without looking up, she said, "The river is angry, Mama." Ioma knelt beside her. "What do you mean, my child?" "The woman wants her leaves back." The word sent a chill through her. She held the child close. "Don't say that again," she whispered. That night the wind picked up. Roofs rattled, dogs barked. A strange humming sound came from the direction of the river. The next morning, the priest of the village went from house to house, warning people to stay indoors after sunset. He said the spirits were restless. Ioma tried to convince herself it was all coincidence. But when she fetched water later that day, she saw her reflection in the bowl shimmer and shift. It wasn't her face anymore, it was the old woman from the river. Startled, she dropped the bowl. It broke into pieces. That evening, Chica refused to eat. She only said one thing, "Go to the priest, Mama." Ioma stared at her child, uncertain. "Why?" "He will tell you how to wash away the anger." By now, Ioma was too shaken to argue. She wrapped a shawl around herself and went to the priest's hut. The man listened quietly as she spoke. When she finished, he said, "Some warnings sound foolish because they come from small mouths. But a child's spirit still remembers the world it came from." He told her to return the herbs to the river before another sunrise. Ioma hurried home, gathered what remained of the leaves, and tied them in a cloth. Chica watched her silently. When Ioma reached the river again, the place looked different, calm but heavy with memory. She knelt by the water and dropped the bundle in. For a few moments, nothing moved. Then the surface rippled softly, and a faint glow spread across the water. She whispered, "Please forgive me." The river seemed to sigh. The glow faded. She waited a long while, then went home. That night, she slept peacefully for the first time in days. The baby too was calm. But before dawn, a scream came from outside. Neighbors shouting. Smoke rising from the other side of the village. Ioma ran out to see the old iroko tree near the square burning with a blue flame that made no heat. The priest was there, chanting. He saw her and called out, "Ioma. The spirit has left the river, but it seeks a home. You must not look at the flame." She covered her face and turned away. When the noise finally stopped, the sky was pale with morning. The priest came to her again and said, "The river will rest now. But remember, the warning of a child is a gift. Next time you hear it, listen." Ioma nodded, tears in her eyes. When she returned home, she found her baby smiling peacefully. Chica reached out and touched her mother's cheek. "Thank you for listening, Mama." Ioma held her close and whispered, "I will never doubt you again." From that day on, whenever someone's child spoke strange words, the elders would say, "Listen first, laugh later." And if anyone ever passed by the river at dawn, they sometimes heard a woman singing, soft, almost kind. A tune that sounded like a mother rocking her child to sleep. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who still believes children don't see beyond their years. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, full of lessons, mystery, and the spirit of our people, subscribe and stay close. There are many tales waiting to be told, and you don't want to miss the next one. Tell me in the comments below. If it were you, and your child gave such a warning, would you listen?